days are long and the years are short, and tomorrow quickly becomes yesterday. My guest on this episode of Passing the Torch is a professional wrestler and man on a current redemption mission. Without further ado, Passing the Torch with Marcus Buff Bagwell starts now. Hey, man, first and foremost, thanks for joining me, dude. This is awesome. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate this.
I really love doing this. I feel like in the chapter of the life I'm in right now, I do feel like I've lived to tell a pretty good story. And you know, a lot of times people that just live my life, they don't make it this far, and you're not able to live through it long enough to come out the other end and actually talk about it. And so I feel very, very grateful that I am, very thankful to God. My relationship with Jesus Christ, which is my Lord and Savior, is number one in my life. And with that being number one in my life, for me, that's what makes it special. Number two is my girlfriend, Stacy Brown. And then now my fiance.
As of Christmas Eve, right? On Christmas Eve, is that right?
Yeah, Christmas Eve. And then third is myself. And in that order, I have been able to be sober for 2.5 years and have the best life I've ever had in my the best 2.5 years I've ever had in my life was this past 2.5. And that's going through cars and money and careers and success and fame and fortune. But with all of that, this has been the best 2.5 years of my life. And my anniversary is actually today. February the 4th is today, 2025, 2-year anniversary. And just very grateful for that, because she really is a fantastic person. But those three things I share a lot with sobriety, because that truly is, you've got to put something in place of the substance and the supplements. You've got to put something in place of the drinking and drugging. Yeah. And you've got to fill that void with something. And if you don't, you're not going to win. But I chose those three things. And until you choose your three, and I suggest God being one of them, that you are not going to be successful in your journey to sobriety or happiness.
I love it. And happy anniversary. And yeah, that's fantastic. So we'll say, what did you used to say? We'll say Stacy is buff and the stuff, and you're not, right? Or instead of you being buff, the stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Or I'm buff, but Stacy's got all the stuff.
Now, this is really cool. So I told my friends, I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and I'm active duty military. And, you know, I have this podcast, so it's cool for me to be able to blend my passions. And I watched wrestling when I was a kid back in the 80s, and I'm 43 years old. So you can think about like the 80s, right? That time of wrestling. And then I stopped watching when I was probably around 9. And then I started watching again when I was around 15. And this is like 1995 to 2000 time frame, just coincidentally. And like, it was like hitting the stock. It's like buying Apple stock at like 10 cents a share to watch the great time it was for wrestling. And you could, you know, and I can remember watching, you know, Marcus Alexander Bagwell with the orange tights, and the hair was a little bit different back then.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was this cool. And I honestly believe there's a lot of similarities between the military and pro wrestling on the camaraderie standpoint, because there's something about in the military when you're deployed with someone overseas, or you get stationed with them, you know, you embrace the suck, you know, with wrestling, especially that time in the 90s, the 5-hour card rides to location and traveling all that time. But before we get into that, would you mind talking about what happened last week, or is that something that's still kind of sensitive? Because we were supposed to record last week. I got to say real quick, it was hilarious. We were supposed to record, I think on the 27th, and I got someone from your team texting me, said, "Hey, Buff's going to jail. We can't record tonight." But it was so nonchalant and how they said it. I was like, whoa.
So I'm in this program called the DUI Court Program of Cobb County, and it's the most intense program I've ever been in, man. It's like crazy. I mean, like I'm going to share a little bit about it now, but I don't think people will truly believe me, because it's that intense. like I've had 9 sanctions, and a sanction could be you're late, you're 1 minute late, or it could be 5 days in jail. A sanction is that range of punishment. A $10 actually, a sanction could be a $10 fine to 5 days in jail. It's that broad of a word, a sanction. The problem with DUI court sanctions are, if you go to jail, which I've gone to jail 3 or 4 times in the DUI court program. One of them was for disrupting class. And I can show you that in writing, which I've posted it before, but I can show people in writing where it says disrupting class. No cussing, no yelling. I disrupted class, which I did, but I went to jail for it for 24 days. The problem with that is nobody believes that I disrupted class. There's got to be more to that story.
Yeah.
And when it gets posted, it shows your last arrest. So it looks like I'm going to jail. It don't say DUI court sanction. It says for disrupting class. It don't say that. It says that Marcus Alexander Bagwell, DUI, hit and run, all the things of my last 4 years ago, my last arrest. And you think defamation of character, against the law, but I've looked at every asset of this. There's nothing I can do about it. And it's not intent. They're not like trying to be ugly about it. Just the way that the sheriff's office does their work and the way the DUI court does theirs, for some reason they can't clarify why not. They just can't put in there DUI court sanction. I don't know why they can't, but they don't. And it devastates me every time I've done it, which has been three times over this 2 years. And every time the world thinks I've relapsed or I'm in trouble, or I fell off the wagon or I'm back using again. So this time I try to get ahead of the horse. So that last time I did the last disrupting class jail sanction, that was probably a year and a half ago. So you fast forward to this one, I've been in trouble in a long time, so I get ahead of it. I go do an interview saying, hey guys, I'm going to jail for 3 days. On this one, I show the paper, I post the paper because I violated confidentiality rules. I still don't know what that means exactly, but it's just a tough program, man. It really is. And I was at step 11 out of 12 steps, and I was graduating in March, and I've got to start over.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a start over and do 3 days in jail. So I did the 3 days, and now I've got to start over on step 1 of the 11 hardest steps I've ever done in my entire life.
Wow.
It's crazy, bro. And it's just and again, I don't see a lot of rhyme or reason, but it is their rhyme and it's their reason, and I'm the one that's in trouble. So I'm doing this program to do it, but it's vicious, man. It's a very hard program to go with. Along with everything I just said, you've also got every morning at 5:30, my phone dings and it tells you whether or not you got a drug test. Every single day for the last 20 months, 5:30 a.m., my phone dings and says yes, drug test, or no. And if you miss one of those, you go to jail. That's just one step. That's just one piece of this puzzle. And and you got to go to court, and you got to do. There's a list of things that you got to do weekly. And if you don't make DUI court number 1 on your calendar, you're not going to make it. So wow. It's a very strict program that is very highly respected in Cobb County, and I'm in it, and I'm going to be proud one day to say I graduated it. But anybody that says they've ever done a DUI court program, the first thing you want to ask them is, did you graduate it? because a lot of times you will see that person goes, no, man, I didn't graduate it. Graduating a DUI court program of any sort in any county is a big deal. And in Cobb County, it's the biggest. They have the strictest. Just 2 counties away from each other. Cobb and Cherokee are right beside each other. Cherokee's is 14 months and you're done. There is no time limit on Cobb's. You're done when you're done, and the average is 20 months. The average.
Man.
I know three people that's been in it for 3 years.
My goodness.
It's strong. It's a strong program, bro. It's strong.
Man, that, and I was going to ask you like some wrestling questions, but I think there's some great content here just about,
yes,
because now like you're in a mentorship role. One question I want to say for a second, man, guys, this is so good. Was there a specific low point in your life that became the catalyst on this road for redemption?
Yes. Actually, the thing that got me here to my road of redemption actually is where kind of my addiction went head first, but it was the catalyst of me going deep into my addiction, but it's also the catalyst for me coming out with this redemption, and that is me ruining my right knee in that car wreck August of 2020. I went deep into alcohol and pills when that happened because I was so depressed. And then, but that same accident is why I'm sober 2.5 years today. I was mad at myself for hurting myself to the point where I couldn't fix it this time. I had knocked my teeth out and I fixed it. I had gotten hurt and I fixed it. I had, done that and I fixed it. I always fixed it. And all of a sudden, I couldn't fix it. And I was mad. I was mad about it. I was mad that I'm stupid enough to not kick out of this addiction until I crippled myself. And I got sober off of it. So even though it was a horrible, horrible day, August of 2020, it's truly the catalyst that what got me sober.
So what would your advice be to someone who's still trying to discover who they are? Because it sounds like you opened up the episode, you talked about your 3 things, but again, what would your advice now be to anyone who's still trying to discover who they are?
Well, my advice would be that I can guarantee you happiness with sobriety. Nobody did that to me. Nobody came to me and said, listen, man, I'm telling you, if you try this, your life is going to be better. I never heard that. I can look in this camera today and say, if you do the same thing that every other successful person has done, which is rehab, 90 days is aftercare. That's 120 days of some kind of IOP, inpatient. It's outpatient intensive program. IOP, 90 days, not 30. 30 is not successful. You got to do 90. I've done 30 3 or 4 times. It doesn't work. It's not enough time. The 90 days, and after the 90 days, you do 30 days, you do 90, so 120 total of sobriety, 90 to 120 of sobriety, and then sponsor, do 90 meetings in 90 days, and work the steps. Those 5 things, I guarantee you happiness. Your life is going to be better, guaranteed. And then from there, you got to roll your sleeves up on how much better it really does get. And I did those things, and my life was instantly better. And then, I rolled my sleeves up, and my life is 1,000 times better now. So I can't tell people if you get sober, your life's going to be 1,000 times better until you roll your sleeves up. But I can tell you your life is going to be much better sober than it is right now. And once you get over that hill and look back at it, it's hard for me to imagine doing what I did. I can't even I can't even imagine it because it's that taboo to me.
Yeah.
I was sedated heavily every day of my life for the past 20 years. And that's crazy. And I have a hard time looking back to find a cameo that I was sober. It was so bad that I think people thought I was sober because that was the voice they were used to for so long. But when I look back, now they see this Mark Bagwell, it's like really hard to find one because I'm dragging in it a little bit, and it's even a good one I'm dragging a little, and so it's crazy on the difference, and I'm very excited when I see the new Marcus Bagwell, and so I've really rolled my sleeves up and really have turned the world around with sobriety and recovery, and I've never been happier in my life.
You look good too. I saw a picture of you from I think it was March of 2023, or I'm sorry, maybe it might have been from like March of 22, and it was like another one of a year later. I was watching a couple YouTube videos about you last night,
right?
And but like, and even now, like you look good. Like your hair looks good. Like your face, like your skin looks good, and
I'm glad.
I would say you look better than you did in 1998.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So do you watch WWE? I know you didn't have much time in there. I know you were truly a good WCW guy, but do you still kind of keep up on WWE and like the concepts and stuff?
Because I do. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. So I am too, right? So if you could cash in a WWE Money in the Bank contract on anything in life other than a championship, what would it be?
I would want to train wrestlers, not train them. I would want to help them create their young wrestlers, help them create and make their character better. Character enhancement is what I would want to do.
Yeah. Do you like that question?
Huh?
Do you like that question? Was that a cool question? Did you like that?
I do. I've never been asked that question ever because what my answer was my answer, and I've only told about 2 people that in my entire life. But that would be the job that I would want to, for WWE, be whatever, and I'm sure they have this, but I would want to be that guy that helps younger talent, work on making that comeback, work on helping their character, just making their character bigger and better. And from ring entrance to microphone to wrestling, doing that would be the best job in the world to me.
Do you have a story, or do you recall a time when you got to WCW, like a pivotal moment, maybe we'll say in the locker room, when you were the younger guy and someone took you aside and said, "Hey, rookie, hey, young pup, like let me school you on this, or let me help you on something"?
That's a great question. So coming into this, I had a little bit of help, a lot of help with Missy Hyatt, is who got me in this business. I was a massage therapist. My parents went broke in 1988, and somehow my parents think of massage therapy. I had a 1.8 grade point average. I went to high school because our father wanted us to graduate, and that's it. We went to school to play ball. That's all we did. We were rich. We were going to work for our lumber company. The 3 boys were going to be employed for the rest of our lives at a company called Southeastern Building Supply in Marietta, Georgia. And in 1988, that was coming to an end, and it was coming to a crashing halt. So my brothers were working there already, and now everybody's going broke. So my dad bought my brother a gym. He bought my other brother a drywall company because he had some money to help us out and get us going. Well, I'm in high school still, man, so what do you want to do? I go, I don't know, man. So we started thinking about what do I want to do? And we came up with, as a family, what about massage therapy? I was wanting to do maybe some kind of sports medicine is what I want to do, like a sports therapist, sports medicine or something like that, something sports. And massage therapy had a full college prep anatomy physiology course that was college level. So I was like, man, I want to get that out of the way, and within a year start making some money. So I was watching guys walking in the Atlanta School of Massage that looked like really like unhealthy little bitty men that were, pale and sickly looking. And I thought, I'm going to make a killing at this thing, man. I'm healthy. I'm a good kid. I got good manners. I'm pretty good looking. This is going to be a good thing for me, I graduate number 1 in my class. And in 10 months, nobody even suggested what was coming at me. But I get the number 1 job in Atlanta I always want to say Sports Authority, but it was something sports, but it was all the athletic clubs in Atlanta. And athletic clubs were the big money, older crowd, big money people are. And I was a massage therapist for sports something. I can't remember the name of it. And so I go to my very first massage, and the lady walks in, and before I can speak, she turns around and walks out. And of course, I go behind her. I said, ma'am, I'm sorry. What's going on? She goes, there's no way I'm letting you massage me. And I was like, why? And she goes, I heard my husband. Now this, I can't remember exactly what she said, but over the next month and a half, 2 months, I heard my husband would kill me. I may have some fat on my back. I may have a bump on my back. They were very insecure. And the biggest light bulb ever went over my head, like, oh my God, this is bad. This is bad. It was really the end. It was the beginning of the end. I just had spent $10,000, and I spent 10 months of my life to graduate this thing.
And this is probably in like what, 88, 89, 90?
This is 89, 90.
So $10,000 then would probably be like, I mean, that'd be, maybe 20 grand today. I mean, it's a lot of money.
A lot of money and a lot of time. 10 months of my life. Hey,
yeah.
8 to 4 every Monday through Friday. A lot of time invested, man. And so I said, man, I gotta make this work. So I started like massaging shoulders of women getting their nails done. And I won over that salon, but that's that one salon.
Yeah.
What about the world that's turning me down women wise? And no matter what you're in, I don't care what you're in, if you only have 50% of the population, it's not going to be successful.
Yeah.
As a pro wrestler, if I only have 50% of the crowd, then I'm done. It ain't gonna make it. You're not gonna make it. So, but again, you can't tell me that. I'm gonna make massage therapy work. Well, it didn't. And the ending of realizing that wasn't working, I'm at the pool one day, and literally like at my deepest depression in a long time, because my dream or my next plan is now failing, which is massage therapy. And at the pool that day, I see this blonde-haired, pretty woman that I see her at the pool, and then I came back to my apartment, and that night she knocks on the door, and I'm like, who is this chick? I'm either getting married or married at the time. I open the door, and I said, hello. She goes, hi, I'm Missy Hyatt, and just comes on in. And I'm like, hey, Tanya, this is Missy Hyatt, So we talk. She tells me who she is. I go, I don't watch wrestling. I told her everything I hear that I hate. I told her. I don't watch wrestling anymore. I used to watch it as a kid. All the stuff I hate to hear, I told her. But it was the truth. I know Dusty Rhodes. I know Ric Flair. I know Lex and Road Warriors, but don't watch it anymore. And who are you again? And you should be, I'm Missy Hyatt, and you should be a pro wrestler. And I was like, they don't make no money, And so out of her training me and all that, back to the story, she prepared me for this. She got me ready for, coming into this business. And so I was prepared to have the right attitude. I was a well-mannered, good kid anyway, but I didn't know you needed to walk into a room and shake everybody's hand. But, buddy, that's a big deal in this business. So I came in the wrestling business as you know, a ton of heat. Here's a young, good-looking kid trying to be a pro wrestler. I mean, tons of heat, but my attitude was really good.
Yeah.
I shook hands. I was genuinely nice. They could see that I was nice. I was a well-mannered kid, and it took some time for all of them, but they all loved Marcus Alexander Bagwell before it was over. But along that journey, there was so many pieces of talent that talked to me. Not one actually came to me with any specific thing, but like all of them I can remember telling me something. And I mean, I'm in the ring with Rick Rude, Larry Zbyszko, Bobby Eaton, Steve Austin's, Brian Pillman's, Dustin Rhodes's. I mean, top athletes, top wrestlers, Ric Flair's, Arn Anderson's. I mean, just the top of the list, brother. Terry Taylor's, best workers in the world. And when it come to who they wanted to beat, why not beat the good-looking kid? But I learned along the way. I listened and I learned and I absorbed it all, man. But like all of them, Rick Rude, his valuable lesson to me was, punch a good working punch is one of the hardest things to do in pro wrestling. And so Rick taught me to throw a forearm. If you look back at every Rick Rude match in the world, you'll never see Rick Rude throw a punch. He always threw what they call flippers, but a forearm. And what the forearm does is it gives you your timing on a punch without hurting the guy. You're getting used to working that form, and working it. All of a sudden, you just use your fist and you're able to throw a really good punch. And from that advice, I had one of the best punches in the business, I believe. And it's because of Rick Rude explaining that one simple little thing. And then everybody had something like that along the way. And you take all these pieces as you go, and then you create your character, which mine was Buff Bagwell.
Yeah. Rick Rude, we talk about body guys. I mean, you go back into history. Man, and he was, God, such a great heel too. I wish he would have had a longer career. I remember the back injury with Sting against, but man, oh man, he was so great. I mean, ahead of his time with the trunks of people's face or whatever on the trunks. And
yes, I took a lot of my character from Rick Rude. The Rude Awakening is I just did a off the ropes Rude Awakening is what I was doing. I wanted to copy the Rude Awakening.
But you talking about the blockbuster, like what your finisher? Yeah. Even now, like in WWE, I love that they call it the blockbuster. Like you see it, it's very common now, but it's acknowledged as the blockbuster, right? Because I know Scott Steiner's a perfect example. Like he would get pissed off if someone said the Hurricane Rana. He's like, no, it's the Frankensteiner. And but it's cool whether. I don't think I've ever heard WWE say your name on air, but for people know the blockbuster, and they're not calling
it's the Buff blockbuster.
Yes, they're not calling it like the flying, reverse neck breaker off the top rope, right? Logan Paul does that move a lot, and it's great to watch. So, it
is great to watch, and a lot of guys use it, and it makes me feel really good.
Yeah. So if someone were to ask you, I was going to ask you like all these wrestling questions about like, hey, what was it like as a rookie? I'm going to be a little nosy. Your first contract in WCW, what was it worth? Because I know what you made later on in WCW, but I'm just curious what you made like was it 92 when you kind of came up or?
92. So when I came in, I signed a $500 a week contract to go to school. And there wasn't no power plant. It was just a warehouse down in Griffin, Georgia, that Buddy Lee Parker and Jody Hamilton ran. And, it was just kind of a dump, And so, but they were going to pay me $500 a week to go to school. 2 days into that, Barry Windham blew his knee out, and they put me on the road. And I wasn't fully aware that, like, this was my chance, I don't think. But I knew it was a big deal, and I never looked back. The rumor got out somehow. A rumor got out that the WWF was looking at me, and Kip Fry offered me $100,000 a year contract, and that's what Missy Hyde said just 2 years earlier. Hey, those guys make our lowest paid guy makes $100,000 a year. So I do think there may have been a short period of time of another one, but $100,000 was pretty quick the first year contract, and we had a 20% cut 1 year that I had to work with Eric on, where he paid me 80 and then paid me a 20 at the end, so it looked like I had the cut. But 100 a year was the lowest and the first.
No, that's great. That's really cool. Hey, so when you were going through the training, I know you said it was short lived. Who were some of the notable names? Did you go to school, like a school with or training with people who ended up becoming like big time stars?
No, like Dustin, like Dustin Rhodes was there, Mike Graham, which is one of our agents. Greg Gagne was, these guys were all agent type, but they were also incredibly good wrestlers. My dark match was in Gainesville, Georgia. My tryout was in Gainesville, Georgia, with Dusty Rhodes watching me at ringside. And I locked up with Mike Graham, and I took him in a right arm headlock, which is completely wrong. You always take it the left arm.
Yeah.
It's always in wrestling. It's always the left arm, left leg. So that's how wrestling is. You know that?
No, I did not. So that's now that I know, like when I watch it, that's all I'm going to see now.
So now that you watch, next time you watch, notice that you'll never see an American wrestler grab the right arm. It's the left arm, and it's always the left leg, and it's the left arm that you grab the headlock with. You never grab it with the right arm. I was so nervous, I locked up, and I grabbed it with the right arm, and I go, what do we do now? And he goes, take your time and fix it. And I just, punched him, and then I got him in the headlock in the left arm. And then I was good the rest of the way. But my tryout, George South tells this story, and it's a great story because he watched me, make it or break it with Dusty Rhodes right at ringside, and I made it. So it was a great night, but that was a tough tryout.
Can you do a Dusty Rhodes impression or no?
Yes, baby. See, so Marcus Alexander Bagwell, Marcus, the reason why we're going to use your real name, baby, is that you're from Marietta, Georgia. You're Sprayberry High School, baby. He goes, it'll be wonderful, Marcus. Well, Dusty, I don't like it. I don't think it'll be... Baby, listen to it. Marcus Alexander Bagwell, baby.
Thank you.
And that's a true story of what just happened. I was like, Dusty, I don't want to use my name. And he loved it, man. He loved it. And he was adamant about using my real name.
My daughter's 13, and she has gotten into watching wrestling. We watched it together. We watched the Rumble this past weekend. And she just got a cell phone within the past year as well. Limited access, but anyway, she started to look up hey, do you know so-and-so's real name is this? Or so-and-so's
I love it.
Roman Reigns' real name is, Joseph something, and it cracks me up. But
that's great.
Hey, so if someone were to ask you, what are you most excited about in 2025, what would you say?
Wow, that's a great question. So 2025, again, number one is I'm most excited about my relationship with Jesus Christ. That is number one. And again, number two would be my relationship with Stacey Brown. What I wake up for daily in 2025 would be I think always in vision is always the WWE Legend deal. I would love to be part of the WWE. I'd love to be anywhere associated with the WWE. I really believe that they're a great company. They're fantastic. They're just in a great spot. And I do believe that my resume is good enough for a Hall of Fame. I do believe, and I do believe that I'm in a great spot for a Legends deal. But that's not it. That's nowhere. That's not in my hands. I just do the best I can do daily. And in 2025, my plan is to make 2025 better than 2024. And that's what I do every day. I try to make tomorrow a little better than today. And I'm a big, big, big one day at a time guy. Sobriety, that's one of the million sayings in sobriety, but that is my favorite because I believe that the one day thing is just huge because it's easy to get overwhelmed, man. I mean, talking to people about getting sober, wow, if you're really in addiction, the steps it's overwhelming. But if you just take it one day at a time, man, by going with that, I've gotten 2.5 years under my belt. Nice. It really is the best way to look at it. Some people's may be God, some people's may be prayer, some may be meditation. Whatever your plan is on being sober and happy, your best bet is to make that one day at a time and then do it again. And I believe with that attitude of the one day at a time, I do believe has been a big part of my success.
Man, thank you so much for sharing that. That's great. I hope you get the Legends deal. I really hope that happens for you. And I went to SummerSlam back in last August in Cleveland and just had the opportunity to see the Legends. And it's just cool, right? And it's nostalgia, at least for me.
Yes.
I was in a podcast mastermind last year from 2023 to the majority of 2024 with Chris Van Vliet. And I know he's not a pro wrestler, but he's the gateway to everything now.
Absolutely. How do you know Van Vliet?
So I've been following his podcast for years. I mentioned I'm active duty military, but I'm more than that. I'm an actor. I've always been a very creative person, and there was a phase where maybe 2013, 2014, I just started watching. We see a lot of things now, but people maybe 10 years ago, people weren't doing interviews. So I would just started watching. I'd want to see celebrities getting interviewed, right? So it'd be 5-minute clips. And I noticed that he was doing, I didn't even know his name. And I just noticed that he was doing a lot of the interviews. And then a couple years later, I started getting back into wrestling and I saw he'd be interviewing the wrestling. I'm like, oh, that's the guy who interviewed, Anne Hathaway or Quentin Tarantino or The Rock. And he started doing more and more wrestling interviews. And then I realized oh, this guy's a big wrestling fan. And then I started following his YouTube channel and he started doing more and more interviews. And then I started listening to his podcast, and it just exploded. And then he started a mastermind, a course, and I took the course, and so I was able to chat with him every week or every 2 weeks. And there was maybe 25 people in this course, so I got a lot. I got an hour with this guy.
What was this course? What was the course?
Full-time creator, but basically just how to become a better podcaster and stuff like that. But this helped me. I learned so much. And then, and I've been following his YouTube. I can remember him posting a video where he's interviewing on YouTube where he's interviewing the Big Show next to some body of water, right? And he's standing up on some concrete thing. It had 200 views, right?
Right.
Now if you go back and look at that same video, it probably has 1 million views or something. But just I've noticed how he kept and leveling up, and then so I just started reaching out to him and I wouldn't really get a whole lot of responses, but then I did that course, and now if I message him, he's pretty good about responding back. And then I met him in Cleveland at SummerSlam because there was a indie show outside in the middle of the street or whatever. And it was so good. It was like a local promotion. It was so much fun. It was the crowd it was
I've
great.
Done a million.
Yeah.
I've done a million of those, man. I love those.
Yeah.
Like outside of a car dealership.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
oh,
we're
man,
and then
yeah.
and I probably talked to him for maybe about 15 minutes or so. And then we actually FaceTimed my wife because I spent a lot of money on the mastermind and stuff like that. And I'm like, Chris, my wife hates you. You got to call her for me. And so it was this whole thing. But I've been able to apply some of his tips, like the podcast guests that I've gotten. I'm very encouraged. So, you know, I have on authors, top military leaders, you know, people like you. But I had Steve Macklin on a few weeks ago from TNA. And then on Thursday, his wife is supposed to be on my podcast, Deanna Perrazzo. She has like 400,000 followers on Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't know how much you follow like into self-development, personal leadership, but there's a guy named Ryan Hawk. He's a big time podcaster. Think Chris Williams from Modern Wisdom. So basically kind of like that type of podcast, if you're familiar with Modern Wisdom. But he was on my podcast, and I mean, there's just, yes. And it's all like, I learned a lot of tips from Chris. And Chris, he said he'll do my podcast. And I know he would if I asked him, but I don't want to do a virtual with him. I want to do in person. So at some point, if I can make it out to LA or something, I'm going to wait. I haven't officially asked him, but I'm pretty sure he'll say yes. But I want that one to be in person. Yeah, 100%.
You think he'll say yes?
Yeah. And I don't know how much you talked to him. So when I did the Steve Macklin interview, I messaged him and I said, hey man, Steve Macklin's going to be on my show. And, but he does respond to me, which I appreciate.
Yes.
But I've been following him for like 10 years. Do you know who Justin Shank is?
Justin Shank. I don't.
Him and Chris are friends, but Justin's got a big time podcast too. Kurt Angle was just on his podcast. Kurt freaking Angle was just on his podcast. But he doesn't interview just wrestlers. He interviews, you know, same thing, authors and self-help people, all that stuff. But he's a wrestling fan. So he will, you know, he'll go to Mania and these other events and stuff like that. But if you can get on his podcast too, man, like, he
brings it, huh?
Yeah. But hey, do you have time for a few more questions? I got
sure,
yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, if you and I were a tag team, what would our name be?
Wow. Well, there's a story behind that. So one day, and not too long ago, like pretty recently, I was doing something, and I thought, and I even asked Scorpio about this, and I could tell it didn't hit home with him. But I'm blown away that somebody didn't give us a name. Again, you put me and Too Cold Scorpio.
You guys were good together.
And we were tag team of the year, bro.
And you guys were together for like 6 months or something. I felt like you guys weren't together for that long.
No, we were world tag team champions and tag team of the year, and we didn't have a name. It was Marcus Alexander Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio. That's crazy to me that nobody thought of a name, but I was so young, I didn't think about it, you know. But Stars and Stripes, obviously, I didn't think of. They thought of that. Even Vicious and Delicious, I didn't think of. But I knew that we needed a name. A kid called us at a restaurant, and we used it, of course. And then the American Males, that was picked by WCW. But why me and Too Cold did not have a tag team name is beyond me. Me and Luger, totally buff. Me and you, I'd have to. It's one of those things that kind of comes to you as you, like Scotty Riggs, for example. I named Scotty Riggs. His first name was Scott, but he wanted to change his last name, you know. So Lethal Weapon was a big show, was a big movie during that time, and Riggs and Bertall.
Oh,
so we named him. We named Scotty Riggs off of Mel Gibson.
I'm too old for this stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a great movie. So that's where Riggs came from. Everybody liked it, and we went with it. Scotty Riggs.
Man, I wish I.
But
this is bad.
What do you think for us? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, man. This is bad. I should have thought of something.
You know, usually it kind of comes to you as it happens as you're around each other.
I'm gonna do ChatGPT right now, and I'm gonna say, "Hang tight, Buff."
Do it. I like this.
Yeah.
I love it that way because it was one of those AI things.
Yeah. Here we go. I put provide tag team wrestling names for Buff Bagwell and Martin Foster. All right. I said provide tag team wrestling names for Buff Bagwell and Martin Foster. Oh, here we go. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So I'm just going to go in order. The last one's actually the best. The Flex Factor. And it put a nod to Bagwell's buff persona and the idea of strong, flexible teamwork. All right. The Muscle Syndicate. Ooh. Are you ready for this one? Southern Thunder.
I like that.
Yeah, and then this one's not bad. The Glamour Crew.
That's good.
I felt like if you were to start a stable and like your fiance's name is Stacy, right? If she was like your valet, that could be like part of your guys' thing. The Glamour Crew.
Oh, definitely could. Definitely could. Absolutely.
There's a couple more. Okay, the Foster Buff Connection. The Buff and the Bold. That's got like a that's cool.
I like that because of the show.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's good, like a soap opera. The Razzle Dazzle duo. The Buffed Out Brotherhood. Power Play. That sounds like an early 1990s WCW tag team nickname.
That sounds just like WCW mid 90s.
I really like the Buff and the Bold. That one's really good. The Golden Standard.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
The Golden Standard.
Those are good.
I like that.
All right, a couple last questions. If you could combine 3 wrestlers of any generation, era, whatever, into one super wrestler, a combination of, you could say, hey, we'll take this guy's persona, this guy's, entrance music, this guy's moves, whatever, right? Mic skills. But yeah, 3 wrestlers and make them into one super wrestler. Who would that be? Or, yeah, who would you pick?
This was instant, but so I'm thinking about it a little bit. But this was instant, and then I'm trying right now to play 3 more that I would combine. And, this is a little bit like the Mount Rush. Who's your Mount Rushmore? That's a great question, and it's a tough one, But the first thing I came up with in my head was The Rock, Stone Cold, and Ric Flair.
That'd be good. That would be something. I used to watch WCW back in the 80s with my stepdad, and my
Wait. Give me your 3.
Man, I've always been an Undertaker fan. There's just something about the Undertaker.
I think because I just wasn't. I'm not gonna make a reason up. I was never a big Taker fan. I respect and I'm blown away with how over he was and how great he was. But I wasn't. I guess because he's tall.
Yeah.
I never could put myself into his world because he's so tall. I can put myself with The Rock. I can put myself with Stone Cold. I can put myself with Flair.
Yeah.
I can make sense out of that. Taker's so bigger than life that I can't really put myself there. So I was never a big Taker fan. Just complete respect out of him.
And then
Taker.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna say Bret Hart because I think ability-wise, he's the best of all time. I think when I think about my favorite wrestling matches of all time, or what I consider the best matches, he's always like, his match against this person or that person. And then my absolute favorite character / gimmick of all time, Mr. Perfect. I love the character and Kurt Hennig. I mean, it was just, man. And to me, that guy should have been a world champion, right? I mean, everything about him and the perfect plex. That was my favorite finishing move growing up. But you go back and look at his matches against Bret Hart. Everyone talks about the SummerSlam match, but he had one against Bret Hart at King of the Ring, I think in 91 or 92. That is, if I was teaching a wrestling school, everyone would have to watch that match first, right?
Wow. Tell me that one again.
It's a King of the Ring. Everyone talks about the SummerSlam match. I think it was at 90 or 91. I forget. But there's he wrestled Bret Hart at King of the Ring, so that had to be 91 or 92, maybe even 93. I forget, but that match Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah,
I'm
man,
gonna check
it's
it out.
good
Yeah.
because I mean the storytelling and like there's something like where I think Mr. Perfect, hurt his hand like the week before, so even during the match, like Bret Hart's attacking his fingers, like those small things, right?
Yeah.
All right, last couple questions. Thanks for asking me my mind. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to do a quick name game, so I'm just going to say a name. Just say one or two words, whatever comes to mind whenever you hear the name. First one is Stacey Brown.
Best human on the planet.
Love it. Diamond Dallas Page.
Most positive guy ever.
Chase Brogan.
Respect.
Love it. Mark Henry.
Strong.
Yeah. Chavo Guerrero.
Dedication.
All right. Too Cold Scorpio.
One of the best wrestlers I've ever been in the ring with.
And last one, Scott Norton.
Best big man that I've ever been in the ring with, and best American Japanese wrestler ever.
Love it. All right, last question. If there's a giant billboard with your picture on it for the world to see, one, what would you want your billboard to say? And two, where would you want your billboard to be?
Just ask it again.
All right, so if you could have a giant billboard anywhere in the world for everyone to see with your leadership message on it, one, what would you want that message to say? And two, where would you want that billboard to be located?
Wow, that's a great question. So definitely I would want it to be in Las Vegas. And what came to me was sobriety is better.
God. I actually have one bonus question.
Please.
What one piece of wisdom would you pass on to the next generation of people to help them light their own torch and carry it forward? Wow, that's great questions, man. Thank you.
Ask it again.
What one piece of wisdom would you pass on to the next generation of people to help them light their own torch and carry it forward?
Well, it came back to me twice. Both times you said it, but I didn't do this, but this is what came to me. It is, don't forget where you came from. And I was a big, I never did that. I've always been told I didn't do that. I know I didn't do that, but you just kind of forget sometimes. Like I remember WCW, there's a private jet waiting on me to go be on the #1 show on television. I am one of the coolest tag team names ever, Vicious and Delicious, in the #1 coolest faction, the NWO, and there's a private jet waiting on me, and I call in sick. And Eric Bischoff calls my number, and he goes, get on something that I pay for over there at your house, and you get your ass to this airplane. And I was, there's 1,000 excuses. I was hungover, but there's no excuses, none. I'm a rich man going on the best show in the world, and I call in sick. So no matter how much you tell this story, you just forget sometimes where you're at. And then Eric reminded me, but it's just, it is human nature a lot of times. I mean, human nature is you just, you forget, like, we eat food, all of a sudden your throat's sore and you can't eat and you realize, man, eating is special, it's just, you just go with the moment. But sometimes you just happen to forget, like with my knee hurt, you just forget how, then you look over at this, like this past weekend, I'm hobbling around and in my mind I'm complaining. And then all of a sudden I look over and there goes Lex by the wheelchair. And I'm like, wow. And I just hobbled right back to my table, fine as can be. But you forget, so just try to stay in the moment and try not to forget where you come from.
I love that so much. Thank you. What can I do for you?
Nothing, but I appreciate you asking.
Yeah.
Very nice of you.
No, and I appreciate just the text, and I remember talking to you on the phone a couple weeks ago for the first time. It was cool. We ended up talking for like 30 minutes. We shared some stories. It was pretty cool just to kind of get your opinion. I won't say who or what we were talking about, but thank you for that. Man, I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you. It was an instant, connection on the phone. It was cool. And I do remember it took me like 5 minutes into it, but I thought, wow, this kid took off pretty quick there. But it wasn't like, I'm genuinely a nice guy anyway, but
yeah.
But it was like 5 minutes into it, I went, how did this kid get me this quick here? We're going. So it was very good, and it was very comfortable, and you're good at what you do, and you're a good talker, and you're a good, communicator. So that's half the battle,
Awesome. Thank you for that. And a lot of clip of moments. I'll probably post this next week or so. And
okay.
Yeah, this is a monster year for me. So I just posted my 5th episode of 2025 2 hours ago. But through this year alone, I've already, like 5 episodes this year, I've already surpassed my numbers from last year. So, and I posted 26 episodes. I'm going to have a monster year, man. I think just to put it in a way, I think all of a sudden, I feel like I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin at King of the Ring 96, where I'm just kind of this mid-card guy and people still see me as the ringmaster. And all of a sudden I have that clickable moment. Hey, Austin, Buff 316 says, I just, kicked your ass or whatever. And then it's just like the next night, man, this is a monster year and you're a big part of that. So I appreciate you, dude.
Absolutely.